to the 44th episode of Career Stories Live. So today I'm joined by the Copywriting Physio, Andy Goldman. Hi,
Hello.
Andy.
Hi, Sarah.
So,
How are you?
yeah, I'm good, thank you. So thank you for joining today. I've not had anyone who's been a physio before, so that's something new. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
So Andy and I met in a membership group that we're a part of called the GDI, which is facilitated by even Joe Watson. So I've kind of left this comment on from last week. It's both incredibly supportive and incredibly sarcastic, the community. But I would say Andy is always such a positive contributor. So it's really cool that we met there. So anyone that's watching, please do comment to let us know that you're here, where you're joining from. Feel free to ask any questions or share your experience in the comments. And if you're watching on replay, also leave comments and we'll come back later on. So the basis for the lives is I've really just always been interested in what people do and why they do it. I like to learn about different roles and career paths. That's what gave me the idea. And the aim is to inspire thought about what people could do. So get quite a lot of students that are watching. So the idea is to give advice on places to source information. And my guests tend to give a bit of information and advice each week. So with all that in mind, Andy, do you want to start by just giving us a brief intro to what it is you do work-wise right now?
Okay, so thank you, Sarah. It's trying to explain it. I've got 3 jobs that I do at the moment. So first and foremost, I'm a copywriter. So I've got this tagline, the Copywriting Physio, because I'm still a registered physiotherapist. So when I'm not writing, I see a few private patients in the community. So I see people at home. It might be carrying on some rehab when they've come out of hospital, or they've had an injury or illness and they want to rehab and recover. Again, it's not my business. So I've got a colleague of mine send some patients my way because they might be at capacity, and I pick and choose when I see those throughout the week. And then when writing, or my freelance writing, might be a bit dry, I will pick up the occasional shift in the NHS, triaging referrals from hospitals, GPs, social services, and prioritizing referrals for physios and occupational therapists to go out and see people in their own homes.
Excellent. Okay, right. I can see we've had a couple of comments coming through. So we've got Sarah Townsend. So she's checking in while she's walking to the polling station. Oh, very topical. Thank you, Sarah. So yes, remember to vote, everybody. Excellent. And then we've got Miriam, who is watching from Pakistan. So thank you very much for joining. That's really nice. Okay, so early careers, Andy. So did you have a job whilst you were at school or college or university? And if so, has that helped you in any way?
Oh, I don't know if it's helped me. When I was probably stemming from work experience, I got a job from being on that work experience. It was, am I allowed to say who I worked for?
Yeah.
I worked for Wimpy on
Okay.
on Margate Seafront. So I did 2 weeks there as a work experience at school, and they must have liked me, so they invited me to come back for the summer at £1.50 an hour.
Excellent.
To be honest, I did make more in tips when I was there, but it was nice. It's on the seafront. It was by the beach. Just a nice atmosphere to be in there anyway, waiting on tables and serving customers in my red and white pinstripe shirt, bow tie, and baseball cap.
Excellent.
So I was going to say, they did try and entice me back for the following summer.
Yeah.
I got them up to £2, but it's an hour. But no, it's
Oh wow, negotiating early on.
Yeah, I think it wasn't. I realised it wasn't worth my time. I need to be paid more for how good I am.
Yeah. Okay. So did you do anything else when you were like at uni or anything like that?
In between uni, it was football coaching actually.
Oh, okay.
So I worked for the Charlton Athletic community scheme.
Right.
So Charlton were I think a Premier League team at the time.
Yeah.
And the gentleman who ran it, we used to be playing golf for Charlton and Liverpool in the 80s, a guy called Bob Boulder. And he was doing coaching sessions at a school opposite my house in Ramsgate in Kent. And a friend of mine at school was working there, and he says, "Why don't you come along and give us a hand?" So I got involved, and before I knew it, I was learning, taking some coaching qualifications. And so in between, before I went to uni, and then in between uni, I'd come home and coach football to kids up to between kind of ages 5 and 10, all around Southeast London, up at the training ground at Charlton as well, which was nice.
Excellent.
So yeah, I had a little bit to try and cover off some of my uni debts.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
nice to be outside with the kids and just have a lot of fun really with football games and Mars bars.
And did physio ever come into your mind at that point? I guess you must have seen injuries and things. No, not really.
No, it wasn't on my
No,
radar at all.
no.
No, I wasn't very scientific.
Mm.
I chose to do double science at school instead of triple because I didn't think I was very good at science. Maybe I should. I got a double C, but maybe I should have done a bit more. But no, I was very much into the arts, writing,
Yeah.
English literature, A level, art, religious studies actually for some reason.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, very much a writer when I was around 18. So no, physio was very, very well. Never probably hadn't heard of it by that point.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So
Yeah.
that leads us into the next thing then. So how did you decide on your first degree?
Well, it just looked interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was called interdisciplinary human studies.
Okay.
So
Right. Okay.
it was multidisciplinary. So it covered literature, philosophy, psychology, and sociology. So I've got to try and
Oh
remember.
wow. Yeah.
So not as a standalone degree, it wasn't going to get me a registration, say, with the British Psychology Association. I'd have to go for
Yeah.
further study for that. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. It just sounded
Yeah.
interesting. All of my friends were off to uni. So that I ended up there because it was the only course of its kind in the country at the time in Bradford. So off I went and spent 3 years doing that.
Excellent. So did you do all of those subjects all the way through, or did you have to specialize at some point or anything? Or
Of course, it's 20 years ago now, isn't it? Over 20 years.
doesn't matter if you can't remember.
It was certainly a mixture throughout, and yes, we could
Yeah.
specialise, but it was always going to be more than one subject. I think it was at least 2 going into the final year.
Okay. Right.
It was
Okay.
probably around more options and what we would choose to do for our final exams or dissertation.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did narrow it down towards the end. Yes, we did.
Yeah. That
Um,
sounds really good. That sounds almost a bit like the American system, doesn't it? When they do like minors and majors and stuff, don't they? So they do a number of subjects and then they specialize a bit later on.
Well, I
Sounds
saw a
great.
few when I was applying with UCAS. I saw a lot of universities doing the joint degrees, and it would have a
Yeah.
combination of 2 of those 4 subjects. But I was very much kind of an artsy type person, and I just saw this one that had all 4 in. I was like, oh, okay, it just looked interesting, so
Yeah.
I did
That's
that.
cool.
Mm.
Okay, so once you graduated and all of that, how did you then go on and start your career?
Went to a recruitment agency and
Okay.
got a job in a call center,
Okay.
as you do. Because again, still not really knowing what I wanted to do. It was
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to stay up north.
Yeah.
I needed a job, so I went to an agency in Bradford, and within a few days, I was working for a finance company, a loans company in Bradford, taking applications over the phone with a headset on. And
Yeah.
but you know what? I think it was something like 11 grand a year. But it was more money than I'd ever had before. So
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
living in what I would still call student accommodation. I felt rich. It was great.
Yeah.
Do that Monday
Oh,
to
that's
Friday, and by
cool.
the weekend, it's like I've got money to spend now.
Yeah.
It's not a credit card anymore. It's great.
And was it's like my first job, it was full of people my own age, so it was almost like being at university then. Was that similar? Was there lots of people your age there, or
It's actually quite a mixture, to be
was it?
honest. Yeah, a lot. Trying to remember again. This is going back quite a few years now. It was quite a mixture.
Mm.
So it was nice to have a lot. There was a lot of experience around as well. People who'd been there a long, long time. It was just a nice mix, and I was able to develop while I was there. It was certainly in skills in customer service. Moved on to kind of almost a team leader role, but I left that company before I moved into that to, I don't know, follow the light somewhere else. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a nice mixture of people to help me sort of grow as a person, because it was a big change from school to university to being in the real world.
Yeah, definitely. So what did you do after the call center and team leader type thing? What did you go on to next?
Well, I moved to something similar in Leeds for credit
Yeah.
card services for Yorkshire Bank, but it was more of a sales role.
Right.
I was selling the dreaded PPI, and
Okay.
yeah, sorry to anyone who wants to make a claim. Yeah, so I was on a basic salary and a commission-based role for selling PPI on credit cards. But then I had an opportunity to move to London.
Yeah.
And I stayed with the same banking group. So I then worked for Clydesdale Bank. It was right at Piccadilly Circus, and basically had a job as a banking advisor,
Okay.
selling personal loans, opening accounts for people, referring to mortgage advisors, and yeah, so a lot more, again, very salesy role. But
Yeah.
it didn't feel like that was what I wanted to do, but that's where I was kind of falling into as a
Yeah.
and just kind of went with it because again I was earning and it was making
Yeah.
me comfortable enough to to live.
Yeah, that's cool. And nice to get a move down to London and see how things are different, I guess. Was there much difference in the
Yeah, in that it was great. It was really exciting. But
mm,
if I wanted to go out with my friends, because in Bradford everything I was close together with everyone, we could just nip out for go for a drink or a curry or whatever. In London, everyone's really spread out. If I want to meet someone, it could be an hour and a half tube journey or a train
yeah,
journey. From people I work with came in from Kent each day.
right, okay.
There was a lot of people commuting, so it was really hard to meet up with people without having to put a load of effort in. So yeah, it's on my own quite a bit in London. It wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be, but it was an
Yeah,
experience I needed to have.
yeah, that's cool. So how did you know, or when did you know that you were gonna retrain to become a physiotherapist then?
Well, so after London, I was only in London for about a year. I came back
Yeah,
to again with still with the same banking group, and then I moved back to the company I started with as a complaints handler. So I was a senior customer relations officer was my job. So
yeah,
handling complaints, all written work, taking the odd one over the phone, but I'd be lots of writing in replies. Um, so again, it was just a job that I was continuing with because it was paying well and I was comfortable,
yeah,
but not really knowing where it was going next. So to answer your question, it was when
mhm,
I met Gina, who now my wife.
yeah,
She's a dentist by background. Her mum was a retired occupational therapist, and it just got me interested in health and
yeah,
healthcare. My dad was kind of getting poorly around the same time. So there's something I just felt like there was something I need to get involved in here. So I decided. So I looked at my mother-in-law, well, future mother-in-law, wanted me to be an occupational therapist. I thought can't do what she's doing.
yeah,
So I looked at physiotherapy. So I didn't have a science background. So I had to go back to college to do a science A level. I had a 2-1 for my previous degree, but I needed a science A level to go alongside.
right,
Which took 2 years. It could have taken longer. I got an A in my, is it AS now, isn't it? AS and A2.
yeah,
I got an A for my AS level, but then they didn't have enough people to run the course for the second year. So my option was it could have involved traveling to find another college that were running it with the same exam board, starting again with an AS
oh,
level with a new exam board,
yeah,
sitting it without attendance. So I can still do it
right,
at college, but I wouldn't receive any teaching for it.
right,
So I decided I'm not wasting any more time. I decided to teach myself A2 biology. Um, and somehow I got, I don't know what, I think I got a C overall,
yeah,
which wasn't quite enough for
that's
physio.
amazing, yeah.
But yeah, that was hard. I mean, I remember going to the practical exam and it was about wood lice. At a tray, and I had to put a piece of cardboard over half of it and a light shining on the other half of it. And every minute out of the 10 minutes, I had to count how many wood lice were in the dark and how many were in the light.
Oh, wow.
Attracted to the dark and
Yeah.
dark areas, and they weren't doing what my hypothesis was saying. So I just gave them a little flick and put them in the dark. So, so that's what got me into uni as a physio.
Wow, excellent. So how did you then go on to pick the uni and the course that you were gonna do? Did you kind of want to stay local at that point, or
Yeah, well, I was in Leeds by this point. So yeah, we just bought a house before I went to uni. So yeah, I wasn't ever going to go far. So I applied to all the local universities. I wanted to go to Leeds, really, Leeds Beckett, but their process for applications was basically they get, say, 800 applicants a year, and they draw so many out of a hat. So they pick the ones that meet the criteria and then draw them out of a hat. And if you're lucky,
right?
it's like a lottery, you get in.
Yeah.
I didn't get in, so I had to find something, yeah, close by.
Yeah.
When I'd had my interview at Bradford, so the uni I went to originally, they said, even if you miss it by a little bit, you'll be fine. You've been here before. I'm sure it won't be. They said it won't be a problem. So when I got my A-level results, I didn't quite make the grade. So I rang Bradford and they went, no, sorry, no, you can't come in.
No.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
So my next option that I had an offer from was Huddersfield. I rang them and do you know what? From the interview I had with them, I knew it had gone all right. And
yeah.
I knew they liked me. So I spoke to someone there. They said, let me go and get one of the lecturers, waited on the phone for 10 minutes, pacing the dining room at the dining area at my work. And she finally come through and all she said was, if you can be here in the next 24 hours with your identification, you can join the course.
Wow.
So yeah, screeching tyres, off I went, off to home, get my passport, over to Huddersfield, and yeah, signed up on the day.
Excellent.
So yeah, Huddersfield is where I ended up, but that wasn't the plan. It was third choice, but is what it is.
Yeah. And how was the course?
Well, after all that, the first day, you know, I've only ever been to uni as an 18-year-old before. Now I'm going
Yeah.
in, I'm about to turn 30, and
Yeah.
just the first day I'm there with, I don't want to say children, but 18-year-olds
Yeah.
who left home for the first time, and then joining them in the student union for lunch, and I just couldn't join in the conversation. I felt so out of my depth, but
Yeah.
in a social way, that is.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't a dad at the time, but it felt like I suddenly needed to be people's dad because I was the old one on the course. It was just really odd.
Oh, wow.
And then I came home and said to Jean, I need to, no, this is no good. And she, and you know, this is just, I think she was going to hit me.
Yeah.
So,
You're staying.
you got this far and doing that to me. So yeah, I carried on, and
Yeah.
yeah, it turned out really well.
Yeah. So did you like commute there each day, or were you staying, or?
Yeah, no, well, I didn't have a job while I was there. I'd saved up,
Yeah.
sold my car because I couldn't run that. It would have cost too much to park in Huddersfield anyway. So it was
Yeah.
the train every day, student
Yeah.
discounts, and all that all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
It was a Manchester Airport train, so it was like one stop. So I just bus into Leeds, 20 minutes to Huddersfield. So just head down, go to the campus, come back out, home again.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you did what you needed to do.
Yeah, and treated it like a 9 to 5. So in between lectures, I'd be in the library because otherwise I'd come home and might not do it because I don't have, you know, classmates around me to get on with, you know, to help
Yeah.
spur me on. So I stayed like a 9 to 5 job, but university was it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah.
So how did you then, so once you'd graduated again, how did you then go about getting your first role and to sort of develop your physio career?
Well, at the time when I qualified in was it 2013, there weren't many jobs going around in physiotherapy for, well, I don't know why at the time, but yeah, they're really hard to find jobs. It was all fixed term stuff, like 3 months, like, you know, cover somewhere. It wasn't enough, and my baby girl was on the way. She was due in the August of the year I graduated. So I just needed some money coming in, and I could have gone back to the firm and handled complaints and done that, but there was no point in that. I would have ended up getting stuck there. So I went back to Bradford Royal Infirmary, where I had a student placement,
Okay.
because I was still in touch with the people from there.
Yeah.
But it was for a therapy assistant job. But actually, the job title was trainee therapy assistant. So I wasn't even, you know, qualified to assist people. I had to train to do that. So the head of the service there in orthopedics said, if you commit to staying for the length of the contract, I think it was about 9 months, then I'll hire you. I think she said that because she'd probably been stung before by qualified physios have been there, said, "Hey, I can't get I work for you," and then 2 weeks later, after trained them, they're off.
Yeah.
I gave them my word, and I got to about 7 months in. I thought, I'm going to have to start applying for jobs here because I've said what I would do, and you know, I was committed to it.
Yeah.
I did right by her, and I got an interview at Mid Yorkshire NHS Trust for a rotational post. So I had to go back to this team leader and say, like, I was dreading it. I said, I'm really sorry, but I've applied for a job thinking that she was going to be really angry with me. And she says, come with me. Said, oh, here we go. And sat me down and says, right, interview questions. And just gave me loads of practice at them. She
Oh,
was
wow.
absolutely delighted. I think she probably wasn't expecting me to stay for as long as I did, but
Yeah.
it was very much bread and butter work of physiotherapy, of getting people out of bed for, you know, on the first day of their, you know, after their surgery, after knee and hip replacements, getting them up, moving,
Yeah.
stair assessments, preparing them for home. It was a great learning experience, and yeah, I couldn't have asked for anything more from the therapy lead there, who then helped me with the interview, and then yeah, I got the job at Mid Yorks eventually, and set me on my physio path.
That's really cool. So how long have you been, or were you doing physio before you then decided to move away? Is it like 10 years or so, was it? A bit less? Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 10 years. So yeah, I did kind of, as a rotational physio, you move around as a band 5, your junior physio. Every 6 months you move on to a different area in Mid Yorks. So I'd kind of like community, MSK gym, so people kind of post surgery with protocols in place to rehab. Intensive care unit and respiratory, back to community again. So a lot of moving around to work out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I found my niche as such, or specialism, as being in the community. So I got a permanent role in the community team in Mid Yorks. Eventually, a a promotion came up, but for in Leeds, and it was closer to home by this point. So I
Yeah.
got a job in Leeds. It was only a kind of 15-minute commute rather than an hour's commute now.
Yeah.
So moved into a senior physio position at the Leeds Community Trust in 2019.
Wow. Okay. So does community mean literally that you are out in the community, going out to see people in their homes and things like that?
Yeah, that's right. It's not just people who are housebound, but it might be people who've temporarily stuck indoors because they've just been in hospital after
Yeah.
an injury or an illness, and it's about rehabbing them back to some form of quality of life that they want to return to. Or it might be someone at home who's had an illness and they're struggling. They might be a bit unsteady. They've started to have falls. So it's about
Yeah.
keeping people safe at home, out of hospital, provision of care if necessary. So my job would be to decide if they can be independent at home or if they need some sort of support, and then choosing what sort of support would be best suited to them, whether it's short, long-term care, someone popping in once a week to see if they're all right.
Yeah.
It would all depend on my assessment and what I find.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So when then was it that made you realise that you kind of wanted to move away from full-time physio or
Mm.
the NHS?
I don't want to blame COVID as the single thing as to why that happened, but it was a really, really tough experience. Because my role in the community didn't change. We were still our first line service.
Yeah.
I think it's the fallout from it that's taken its toll. And the things you hear about the NHS in the news about understaffed, underfunded, lack of resources, all of that, it really does tie your hands behind your back when you're trying to help people in the way you want them to and the way they should be based on a criteria. If I want to see if that patient has been deemed needs to be seen within this timescale, I should be able to go and see them in that. And it was becoming the impossible job.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where my job doesn't finish at 5 o'clock. I don't know if it ever finishes with that duty of care. It just continues. And I made the mistake of putting my work email onto my personal phone so I could respond to things as and when. And it became like a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
And if I'd have carried on much longer, I think it would have broken me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't carry on
Must be
like
tough. Yeah. And you're that kind of person that wants to help everyone, aren't you? So I can
yeah,
imagine it being really hard to switch off.
yeah, because there's always the next person that needs help, and that conveyor belt would never stop. It will never stop, but I still like to be able to see them in the time they should be seen, and to
Yeah.
help the time they need it, rather than a few months down the line when the picture's completely changed and you don't know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. The way I work, I just couldn't do it like that anymore.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. So how did the copywriting come about? How did you decide to get into that?
Well, one of the biggest issue, another another big issue at the NHS is the communication between organisations and the people at the end, the patients. And what I always found about it was it's probably still now. It feels quite stuffy and almost over professional. And I feel like and the way I talk to my patients, they enjoy the treatments. It's not, healthcare doesn't have to be sad. It's about, for me, in the role I am, it's about recovery and recuperation and
Yeah.
getting better at things and trying to find successes. And people need to enjoy that, to engage in it. And I wanted to try and do that in writing somehow or some sort of media. So I started up a Twitter account. If I'm going back to when I was at Mid Yorks,
Yeah.
I started up a Twitter account. It was mostly for staff engagement and to highlight the service and show off what we're doing to help our patients. We had patients involved in it, as in the best engagement we ever had was when patients were involved and smiling and enjoying their rehab and improving. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
There was new initiatives, things like Allied Healthcare Professionals Day was a new thing that started. So I jumped on that. Created a tweet for that, made a video for it. It was it was about all these allied health professionals coming together. So I had the music come together and members of staff crossing the street one after the other with pieces of equipment that we'd be going out to staff with, to patients with, one after the other, to come together right now.
Yeah.
And I think for the hashtag that they created for it, my little Twitter account reached, I think, 4th or 5th best in the country, ahead of
Wow.
NHS England. And I thought, just from a simple 10-second video and what I wrote that day has probably had a bigger impact. A lot more people have seen it than I could ever do if I saw my 5 or 6 patients in a day.
Yeah.
So something kind of went off in my head that I wanted to get involved in some sort of communications or writing. And I hadn't heard of copywriting at this point, but I knew it was something I wanted to do
Yeah.
and to try and get involved in, but I didn't have that sort of background to be able to apply for any jobs like that. So I just carried on with my head down physio job.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, when I realized that you could actually have a career out of it and make money out of it, and you don't have to have been to uni again, for
Yeah.
writing
Third
career.
degree.
Not going back again. Not a third time. I'll be their granddad this time anyway, wouldn't I? I decided, yeah, this is something I can do. So I started practicing by approaching friends, family who already had businesses.
Yeah.
I had a go at writing a website. They absolutely loved it. So he took it to his web designer, and we had a meeting, and I thought, oh, this is really exciting. This is great. My words are going to be used on his
Yeah.
business. It was
Yeah.
accountancy. It's not something I, really know about from my background, but it was just the best feeling when I had a meeting with him, with the owner of the business. I'd already combed through his website, tore it apart, I should say, and talk about a pain point. He was really depressed when he looked at it and said, why have I said that thing 10 times there and that thing 10 times there? I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So I did a rewrite, and we did it in a tone of voice that he wanted, and it was just great fun to do. And I thought, I need to do this full time. So one day I went to work, and I wasn't even intending to quit that day. I've been thinking about it, and something happened at work, and it just, right, that's it. And I typed my email and handed my notice in.
There you go.
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
And so since then, you're kind of doing a mixture of copywriting, triage, private
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not silly. I do, I need a stream of income. So
Yeah.
to begin with, yes, I did. I wanted to keep my registration because it's also a selling point of the copy business that I've got, in that I'm still keeping up to date, in touch with
Yeah.
with the staff on the staff high up, staff on the ground, the patients. I like to know what's going on because it puts me in a better position to know what we need to say out there.
Yeah.
My business almost runs like a sliding scale now, that if I've got writing, then the physio, I do less physio. If I've not got as much writing, I do a bit more physio. I keep my money coming in. But either way, I'm working and keep learning and keep up to date.
Yeah. That's excellent. It's a really good model.
Mm.
So everyone so far that I've had on ends up talking about their values in some way. So do you think your personal values have got an impact on the work you do or who you work with?
I hope so. I mean, I know the cliche or the hashtag of be kind.
Yeah.
I don't say it out loud. I'd rather do it and
Yes.
show kindness to my patients and encouragement and have a bit of fun with
Yeah.
as well. Because I think, I maybe said I wasn't going to talk about this, but I think sometimes the fun side of healthcare I personally think is severely lacking.
Yeah.
It's not like I want to crack jokes when I'm seeing patients. It's not like that. Humor doesn't have to be laugh out loud funny. It's something that's a bit of humor that just makes someone smile and know that it's a human being that understands what another human being is going through.
Yeah.
And if that counts as a value, it's being
Definitely. Yeah.
able to go from human to human and talk to those people in a way that they understand and will engage with you. They've been through some awful times, awful suffering,
Yeah.
and it doesn't always feel like there's any lights, at the end of that tunnel, again, cliche.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to give them that by being a human.
Yeah.
Just by being human.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, just from being in the group with you, I can definitely see that you would bring that to your work for sure, because you definitely do for everyone in the group. So you are very supportive. Okay, so in terms of advice, so what advice would you give someone who wants to go on to do a degree a bit later on? So not necessarily at 18, but like you did at kind of 30.
Well, yeah, I mean, the original degree I did it because it sounded interesting, but
Yeah.
maybe the careers advice I got at school wasn't what it should have been, or is it me that I didn't know what I wanted to do? Either way, the degree, I wouldn't change the fact that I went for that degree. I wouldn't change that course because it shaped where I am now.
Yeah.
But what I'm probably saying is the experience of it and the experiences I've had in perhaps areas I didn't intend to be in, like in the finance industry, football coaching,
Yeah.
wanting to be a chef,
Yeah.
all those things. But I've experienced lots of different things, and at some point it narrows it down. You suddenly find something like healthcare would have came out of nowhere for me.
Yes.
Oh, all I've ever done is to help people.
Yeah.
So how can I have the biggest impact to help people? And that's where all these jobs have shaped me to
Yeah.
get resolving problems for people,
Yeah.
making things better, providing a great service,
Yeah.
so people can say thank you, and they feel grateful for for things getting better than they were when they started.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
I think get out there and get some experience is what I'm
Yeah.
is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I did try
That's
different
it.
things to
Yeah.
understand what you need to do, because at 18 I had no idea.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
And if anyone's worried about being an older student, what would you say?
Um,
Just get on with it.
get past that first day and it'll all be fine. Uh,
Yeah.
with a couple of weeks later, so beginning mid of October, they knew it was my 30th birthday, and all of a sudden, I've got loads of 18-year-olds bringing me a cake and singing "Happy Birthday" to me in front of everybody in the lecture hall.
Oh,
It's just really nice.
excellent.
Yeah, the age thing didn't really matter. It was just 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 don't worry about those first few days. You'll get used to it.
Yeah, good. Okay.
You'll be in a
And
student before you know it.
yeah, true. So, and what about people who are interested in a career in physiotherapy? What would you say to them?
Well, after what I've just said, I wouldn't be turning people away from the profession. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. Because again, it's such a varied role with the rotations. Again, it's about experiencing different areas of physiotherapy. Don't just think it's running onto a football pitch, because it's not. I've actually never
Mm.
done that. It
Yeah.
was actually an option in my third year of uni, and then you selected 10 people to go on it. So
Right. Okay.
it's a very, very small piece of physiotherapy. So it could be chest physio, neuro, in all the different settings as well. There's such a varied job to get into, and
Yeah.
it can be a lot of fun when the service runs as it should.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Excellent.
put anyone off from doing it. Absolutely not, because I still want
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. All right. So we're about out of time. So thank you very much, Andy, for joining me today. I think people will have got lots out of that. There was lots of advice coming out of that. So thank you to everyone that's watching also. And next week I'm back at 1:00 with Rachel Boswell, who is a senior content writer for Runner's World magazine. So very much looking forward to chatting to her. I met her when I met her randomly at Chicago Marathon last year. So that'd be a nice conversation. So yeah, thanks again, Andy, and see you next week.
Thank you, and
Bye.
thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Bye.